Good morning. Hi, Bula. Those down the back, Bula. Vinaka. All right, are we ready? We're ready for 2 days. It's going to be awesome. We have to go through some formalities, though, this morning. And I might start with my name. My name is Vanessa. I'm from Fiji. I represent Fasenok. And I'm going to introduce my co-host, who's also one of the panelists and speakers, Matthew from Samoa.
Alofa Bula Vinaka Matthew Vaya from Cessnock, Samoa.
Naka. Ladies and gentlemen, to kick off our 2-day program, if I could ask you all to rise so that we can welcome in the President of the Republic of Fiji. And when he enters, we will sing the national anthem. Please join in. I understand that it's going to be on the screen, and we are going to sing the national anthem. And please remain standing while we offer a prayer. Okay?
We come before your midst today and asking for your blessing and to also give thank you for this wonderful opportunity, this wonderful new day in our lives that we are able to gather in your wisdom and in your power so that we may share and glorify your name. We ask you, good Lord, good Father, to be with us today as we have come from our regions, our lands and our homes from afar, so that we may use the God-given talents, your voice, your energy, and your strength, that we may serve in your name, Jesus Christ. We ask for the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ, to wipe away our sins and our weaknesses. But we also ask you today to bless our leaders, to bless the people of Fiji as our hosts, and to bless the people of Oceania and the Pacific, that we may come together and share our knowledge, and once again, using the God-given talents in our wonderful world of sport, that we may serve and glorify in your name. God, we ask you to bless our speakers today, our distinguished guests, and our sisters and brothers in the sporting fraternity as we are about to spend the next 2 days to work in your name. All these things we ask in your name, Jesus Christ, Lord and Savior. Amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may take your seats. Can I ask some of the wonderful ladies up the back to come and garland our chief guests, please? Vinaka. The Chancellor, the President of the Republic of Fiji, His Excellency, Major General Retired Chochi Konrote, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Richard Cole, the University of the South Pacific, Honorable Minister Laisiania Tuitumbo, Minister of Youth and Sports, Government of Fiji, senior officials of the Government of Fiji, Dennis Miller, Executive Director, Oceania National Olympic Committees, Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of international and regional organizations, member of the Council, Senate and their committees, members of USB senior management team, ladies and gentlemen, Nisambula, and welcome. Welcome to this wonderful 2-day Pacific Research Symposium on Sport and Sustainable Development. It's going to be a wonderful 2-day program, and we thank you for being here this morning.
Let me just give you some background on the special occasions, but also the thematic areas. In the next 2 days, we will be introducing the summary of the symposium and which will talk briefly about some thematic areas. 1, sport and public policy. 2, leaving nobody behind or no one behind as a regional priority. 3, measuring the impact of sport on our society. And 4, the wider contribution of sport to the Sustainable Development Goals. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, later on today and tomorrow we'll be hearing from some international and regional speakers, and 2 of them I have the pleasure of highlighting as our special guests, Dr. Emma Sherry from Swinburne University of Technology, who will talk about some technical backgrounds and platforms on gathering evidence. We also have Professor Dr. Vladimir Andreev from the University of Paris, who shared some wonderful findings yesterday with our group, who will be sharing further on the dynamics of research and technical data. Distinguished guests, may I now welcome and introduce our first speaker, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Professor Richard Cole of the University of South Pacific, for his brief address, and following that, to introduce the Chancellor, the President of the Republic of Fiji.
Thank you, MC, and those observant amongst you notice that I'm not the DVC that was on the original program. My colleague, Dr. Armstrong, has been ill-disposed, and so I was happy to step in and help out for that. I had a slight reservation about sport, considering the fact the way Fiji's treated New Zealand in the Rugby Sevens recently, so with that reservation, I'll continue and begin with an opening talk here. His Excellency Major General Retired Georgi Kondraty, the Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific and President of the Republic of Fiji, Honourable Lysenia Tuantobo, Minister of Youth and Sports, Dr. Robin Mitchell, President of Oceanic National Olympic Committees, keynote speakers Dr. Emma Sherry, Associate Professor, Swinburne University of Technology, and Prof. Dr. Vladimir Andreev from the University of Paris, distinguished presenters, panellists, staff and students of the University, guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and a very warm welcome to the University of the South Pacific. On behalf of the University, I'm very pleased to welcome the delegates and the delegates attending the inaugural Shaping Up Pacific Research Symposium on Sport and Sustainable Development. Since its inception, the University has been committed to fulfilling the challenge of providing the highest possible higher education and research while addressing the changing circumstances and needs of the Pacific region. As many of you will be aware, in this year of 2018, the University is privileged to be celebrating its 50th years of successful regional cooperation as a respected tertiary education provider. And it's grown from very humble beginnings with its first cohort of 32 students in 1971 to over 30,000 students today. We recognise that we must continue to be a dynamic institution that's responsive to regional and global developments, and with this in mind, we're delighted to respond to the growing trend in the Pacific region to strengthen evidence-based underpinning sport and the contribution sport can make to sustainable development. So the symposium and workshop is particularly pertinent to USP's desire to support the region. USP proudly supported a new research project we highlighted during the symposium, made possible through a strategic research theme grant and supported by contributions from the governments of Fiji and Samoa, the Oceanic National Olympic Committees. This is the first research of its kind. The University is proud to be responding to demand for research and for connecting with new partners to strengthen the academic engagement in sport, physical activity and physical education. On behalf of the University, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the University as we celebrate the 50th year, and this symposium is one of 12 research symposiums to be featured in the event calendar during our 50th year. The Shaping Up Pacific Research Symposium on Sport and Sustainable Development will feature keynote addresses, as I mentioned in the introduction, Dr. Emma Sherry, Professor Vladimir Andreev from the University of Paris, and President of the Scientific Council on Sports Economy at the French Ministry of Sports. As our MCs mentioned, 4 themes of the Research Symposium explore the contribution of sport to sustainable development agenda and its ethos of leaving no one behind through the lens of access to sport, physical activity and physical education. The latest developments towards measuring the impact of sport in society and importantly the intersection between sport and public policy. Our 50th anniversary slogan is "Celebrating the Pacific, Shaping its Future." And we're committed to working closely and cooperatively with all our stakeholders to move progress forward in the research agenda underpinning sport and sustainable development in the region. So we welcome the Regional Policy Forum taking place on Friday, hosted by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, and the opportunity to translate the outcomes of the important research symposium to regional policy dialogue on tackling sustainable development in the Pacific through sport. So the University appreciates the collaborations with the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat and the Oceanic National Olympic Committees in hosting this inaugural research symposium, and we look forward to an ongoing partnership engagement as together we take forward the agenda to maximise the contribution and support to the sustainable development of the Pacific. So I'd like to wish everyone a very successful symposium and look forward to some excellent outcomes. Thank you very much. Just opening the file here. It's now my pleasure to introduce the President of the Republic of Fiji, His Excellency Major General Retired Georgi Kondraty. As a soldier and former civil servant, diplomat and government minister. As a soldier, he rose through the ranks from a private to become a Major General and the first Fijian to hold the position of United Nations Assistant Secretary and Force Commander for the United Nations Interim Forces in Lebanon. Prior to this, he held the position of UNIFIL Deputy Force Commander and Deputy Commander-Chief of Staff of the Republic of Fiji Military Forces. He also served the New Zealand Special Air Service and the British Army. As a civil servant, he held the position of Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Home Affairs and Immigration. His Excellency was Fiji's High Commissioner to Australia and Ambassador to Singapore, based in Canberra. Upon his return from Canberra, His Excellency entered politics and was elected as an independent member for Rotuma in the 2006 general elections. He was appointed as Minister of State for Immigration and Ex-Servicemen. Following the change of government in 2006, His Excellency became a community worker on his home island of Rotuma, where he was appointed by the government as an advisor to the Council of Rotuma. In 2014, His Excellency won a seat in the general election held in September. He was appointed as the Minister for Employment, Productivity and Industrial Relations, a position he held until October 2015. His Excellency was elected the President of the Republic of Fiji on the 12th of October 2015, when Parliament voted for the head of state under Fiji's Constitution of 2013. His Excellency is currently the Chancellor of the University of South Pacific, where he officiates the university's graduation ceremonies. He is also Fiji's lead advocate and champion of the national campaign to promote health and wellness and introduce non-communicable diseases. He is also a patron of numerous organisations in the sports and social services sectors. His Excellency is a graduate of Natambua High School and the New Zealand Army Administration and Tactical Schools in Waiouru, the Australian Army Officer Cadet School in Portsea, the Australian Army Command and Staff College in Queenscliff, the Australian College of Defence and Strategic Studies in Canberra, and the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University in the United States. He's married to Madam Saroti Kondrate, and they have 2 sons and 6 grandchildren. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President of Fiji and Chancellor of the University for his address.
The Minister for Youth and Sports, the Honourable Asinia Tutumbo, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific, Professor Richard Cole, the Executive Director of the Oceania National Olympic Committee, Mr. Dennis Miller, our distinguished guests, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, Sambal Banaka, a very good morning to you all. I'm deeply honored to join you and to officially open the inaugural Shaping Up Pacific Research Symposium on Sport and Sustainable Development on behalf of the Government of the Republic of Fiji and in my capacity as the 24th Chancellor of the University of the South Pacific. I welcome researchers and practitioners from Pacific Island countries and territories and from around the world. It is our pleasure to host you in Fiji for this important event, which is sharing the latest developments and research exploring the contribution of sport to sustainable development. Seen as more than just a game, sport has been widely recognized as an enabler of sustainable development. Now, besides the excitement that sport and games events bring to our lives, people of the Pacific and around the world, the role of sport extends to a wide spectrum of human development areas. At the global level, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development has recognized the growing contribution of sport to the realization of development. Now, through this realization, sport is recognized as supporting the promotion of tolerance and mutual respect, the empowerment of women and young people, and contributing to development objectives across the domains of health, education, economic growth, and social inclusion. Now, at the regional level, small islands developing states accelerate the modalities of action, or the Samoa Pathway, which was adopted in 2014, further emphasizes the support of the heads of states and governments in using sport as a vehicle to foster development, social inclusion and peace, in addition to strengthening education, promoting health, and building life skills, particularly among our youth. Now, recognizing the potential of sport in advancing sustainable development objectives, the Government of Fiji has incorporated sports development in the country's 5-year and 20-year National Development Plan. Now, that was launched in the margins of the COP23 meeting in Bonn, Germany, November last year. In the longer term, sport tourism is part of the priority for nurturing new and emerging growth sectors, while the development of professionalism in sport and the promotion of access and participation in sport is an integral component of the country's vision for skills development and the attainment of demographic dividends for the people of Fiji. Now, Pacific Island Forum leaders and Pacific Ministers of Health have identified the high burden of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, as a major barrier to achieving the vision of healthy islands and islanders for the Pacific. Now, particularly physical inactivity is known as one of the leading risk factors for mortality across all Pacific countries and territories. The Global School-Based Student Health Survey, conducted by the World Health Organization in 2016, estimated that only 19.2% of students aged between 13 and 15 years in Fiji reported that they were physically active for at least 60 minutes a day within a 7-day period. Now, notably, the same survey highlighted that the level of physical activity among female students in Fiji and across all save 8 Pacific Island countries and territories was lower than their male counterparts. Now, Fiji's health system and our people are bearing the burden of NCDs-related ailments. Now, currently, Fiji loses about $406 million annually due to the prevalence of the 4 major NCDs: cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, cancer, and chronic respiratory disease, the leading causes of mortality in Fiji, leading to premature deaths. Fiji has one of the highest rates of NCD-related deaths in the region, and NCDs are a major health concern to us, sadly. As Fiji's lead advocate and champion in the campaign to reduce NCDs, I am promoting the concept of a fit and healthy nation. I'm also inviting as many people as possible to join me in this campaign. Imagine if we have a fit and healthy nation, a good portion of the $406 million I'm talking about could be channeled to education, youth and sports development, among many other nation-building initiatives. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as a region characterized by significant youth bulge, engaging our young people in meaningful sport-based activities is critical to reduce the prevalence of NCDs, antisocial behaviors, and other social risk factors plaguing the region. Now, this should also include improving the mental and physical well-being of all people in the Pacific across lifespan, in our homes, in our communities, in our schools, and our workplaces. Now, the Pacific region takes pride in its people's passion for sports and the prowess of Pacific Island athletes. Now, there are more and more success stories of Pacific Island athletes participating in major sporting events, including the Olympic and the Commonwealth Games. Now, this points to a critical yet unique contribution of sports to economic development and recognized as income, job creation, and remittances. In the case of Fiji, remittances from talented Fijian athletes competing overseas have significantly contributed to the national economy and guaranteed income support for many of our families. Now, sport, as a universal language, has the power to bring people together regardless of their background, status, and origin. Now, because sport transcends differences, its inherently social nature is a powerful tool and platform to engage vulnerable groups, particularly women and persons with disabilities, in activities which not only improve their physical fitness, but also build their confidence and nurture leadership skills. The success of Fiji Rugby Sevens team at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games is not merely a sporting achievement for Fiji, but has served as a source of inspiration for all Pacific Islands people from all walks of life, and a milestone that brings pride not only to the people of Fiji, but to all our Pacific Island brethren. Fiji also lays claim to the Pacific region's first Paralympic gold medal through the athletic feats of our current Assistant Minister of Youth and Sports, the Honorable Ilyas Ndelana. The region's athletes with disabilities are powerful role models, showcasing ability and inclusion, and an important reminder that we all have a responsibility to create enabling environments that will leave no one behind. While the potential of sports in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals or agenda is yet to be fully recognized at international, regional, and national levels to date, it can be categorized as a mechanism with great potential through which concrete outcomes to critical regional development issues can be achieved. Now, defining a concrete direction and way forward for how sport is and can continue to contribute to the achievement of regional priorities is a challenge that lies before us all. Sports can add great value to our regional leaders' vision in building a more resilient Blue Pacific continent through enhancing economic resilience and building stronger people in order to protect our oceans and our livelihoods. Now, sport and physical activity as a cross-cutting policy area has a significant contribution to make towards building economic resilience, building stronger people, and stronger nations. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as we begin to ponder on the contribution of sports to the Sustainable Development Agenda, further mainstreaming of sport into the region's national development context needs to be supported by a strong evidence base. Now, it is critical to understand the impact of sport to key development areas, including but not limited to education, economic growth, health, social inclusion, and peace building. Now, such evidence will allow for effective and mutual reinforcement of programs and policies which combine sport with development priorities. I congratulate the University of the South Pacific and its partner on the new research project featuring case studies of the economic and social impact of sports in Fiji and Samoa. I also congratulate the research team whose findings on Fiji and Samoa we will be discussing at length during this symposium. We should all welcome the inclusion of sport on the university's research agenda. We should also look forward to ongoing collaborative efforts to measure the impact of sport and its contribution to sustainable development in Pacific Island countries and territories. Now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, harnessing the development potential of sport requires translation of evidence into informed national policies. As the contribution of sport, physical activity, and physical education is cross-cutting and easily caters to a wide range of issues, it is crucial or critical to develop a comprehensive vision for sport, which aligns with national and regional development priorities. Since 2017, the government of Fiji has been in the process of revising the national sport policy, which aims to maximize the contribution of sports to national development priorities. Now, led by the Ministry of Youth and Sport, the process of policy development has been participatory and evidence-based through data collection and engagement with critical stakeholders through inclusive and participatory consultation exercise. And I'm sure the Minister will be talking to you more about that in his address later on. The sport policy development process in Fiji has highlighted that sport is not a standalone sector and that setting a vision for sport needs to go beyond the domain of the sports sector. An intersectoral and interdisciplinary approach is key to ensuring that local, national, and regional development initiatives embrace and leverage the power and potential of sport to maximize its potential to achieve broader development priorities. I'm pleased to note that Fiji's Minister of Youth and Sports will also be speaking this morning, and I'm sure he could enlighten the symposium on this and other related issues. I fully support the Vanuatu Minister for Education and Training, the Honorable Jean-Pierre Nirua, when he said that, and I quote, "Sport is everyone's business," unquote, during his address at the 5th Pacific Sports Ministers meeting in conjunction with the Vanuatu 2017 Mini Pacific Games. I was fortunate to be in Vanuatu at the time and met the Honorable Minister and some sports people too. What this essentially means is that a coordinated action plan for sport requires the alignment of international standards and norms for sports with the regional and national development framework, to support the collaboration of different sectors and the commitment of multiple stakeholders in translating talk into action. I believe in walking the talk. I was talking to Professor Richard Cole this morning and young Jackie. As the lead advocate for wellness and fitness, I not only walk the talk, but my team and I, we run the talk every morning. In this regard, I also welcome and endorse the recent calls from Pacific sports ministers and foreign finance ministers for the development of a Pacific sport and physical activity action plan and regional coordination mechanism. Now, through collective and coordinated action, we look forward to realizing the true potential of sport and physical activity for our people and our nations. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is my last official engagement as the 24th Chancellor of the University of South Pacific, as you've heard. And I'm delighted to announce today that the USP Research Office will introduce a new Pacific Regional Sports Research Scholarship Program. Now, the new scholarships are designed to build the research capacity at USP in line with the university's strategic research themes, strengthen the evidence base on the contribution of sports to sustainable development, and inform policy development and regional investments in and through sports in the Pacific Island countries and territories. For the university, this will increase the number of postgraduate scholarships in areas of regional need, and the Pacific Regional Sports Research Scholarships will be celebrated as one of the sustainable legacies of the university's 50th anniversary year, celebrating the Pacific and shaping its future. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again congratulate the university and its partners at the Pacific Islands Forum, Secretariat of the Oceania National Olympic Committee for this innovative research symposium. I wish you all a very successful few days of presentations and dialogue as you shape up the research agenda for sport and sustainable development. It is now my great pleasure to declare the symposium officially open. Thank you. God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, can we put a louder hand for our President? Thank you, Your Excellency, for a powerful yet relevant opening speech. Vinaka Bakalevu. And this now brings me to our next speaker. I'd like to introduce, as you all know, the Honourable Lesinia Tuitumbo, Minister of Youth and Sports for the Government of Fiji.
The President of Republic of Fiji, His Excellency Major General retired Chochi Conrote, Honourable Ministers, Senior Government Officials, Deputy Vice Chancellor USP, Associate Professor and guest lecturers, delegates and dignitary, senior officials and members of the respective sporting bodies, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Bulu binaka namaste. And Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to you all. I am delighted to contribute to the important research topic of sports contribution in economic and social development in the Pacific. I acknowledge the partners who are hosting the inaugural Shaping Up Pacific Research Symposium on sports and sustainable development, including the university as it celebrates the 50th anniversaries this year. Let me begin by contributing with a quote from one of the greatest leaders of our time, Nelson Mandela, and I quote, "Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire, the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sports can create hope where there was once only despair. It is more powerful than governments in breaking down racial barriers. It loves in the face of all types of discrimination," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, in an often divided world, Sports is a unique and a important connective tissue that binds people together, both across and with societies. As we think about the forums that unite us as people, regardless of backgrounds or beliefs, it is hard to think of many as powerful as the stadium that we fill to cheer our favorite team and players, or the field where we play together for pleasure and exercise. Sports has proven to be a cost-effective and flexible tool for promoting peace and development objectives. Since the inception of the MDGs in 2000, sports has played a vital role in enhancing each of those 8 goals. Sports is also an important enabler of sustainable development. We recognize the growing contribution of sports to the realization of development and peace in the promotion of tolerance and respect, the contribution it makes to the empowerment of women and young people, to individuals and communities, as well as to health, education, and social inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud that the Pacific Island Sports Ministers have affirmed our commitment to strengthen sports and sustainable development in the region that we are all discussing our action plans. The first Pacific Sports Minister meeting under the theme Strengthening Sports and Sustainable Development means to engage with the presentation on action plans, policy coordination, sports economy, Pacific Games, regional priorities, and relationship within a regional organization. We as ministers reaffirm that sport is the glue of sustainable development and economies. Sports promote health and healthy communities, contributes to reducing crimes, promotes stability and harmony, promotes talent, help children in school, and promote national pride and identity. Furthermore, the ministers noted 3 main themes that we discussed, and we would guide national sports and physical education policy. The first one was developing a comprehensive vision of inclusive access for all, maximizing the contribution of sports to sustainable development and peace, and promoting the integrity of sports. Ladies and gentlemen, as will be discussed over the next 2 days, sports play a critical role towards sustainable development goals. Sports contributes to well-being regardless of age, gender, or ethnicity. It is enjoyed by all, and its reach is unrivaled. Football has brought together Palestinians and Israelis. In the table tennis world championship recently, the 2 Koreans refused to play each other, and the ITTF accepted a joint Korean team to play the rest of the event. Furthermore, the World Taekwondo Federation established the Taekwondo Humanitarian Foundation to promote the martial art in refugee camps around the world. Such an initiative raises awareness about the plight of young refugees and complements the SDGs, particularly with regards to health, which achieve the goal number 3, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being of all ages. Children, and young and older, people benefit tremendously from physical activity. Combined with the school curriculum, physical activity and sports are necessary for a comprehensive education, with chief goal number 4, ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. Sports provide lifelong learning and a form of education for children who cannot attend school. By taking part in sports and physical activities alongside schools, students are exposed to sports key values, including teamwork, fair play, respect of the rules, and others, comprehension, discipline, and tolerance. Furthermore, sports in its most basic forms encourage balanced participation and has the capacity to promote gender equality. We at Goal 5 achieve gender equality, empower all women and girls. Through sports and physical activity, women and girls are empowered and benefit from the positive impact that sport has on health, confidence, and status. Participation in sports challenges stereotypes and social roles commonly, perhaps wrongly, only associated with women. Sports can help women and girls demonstrate their talents and achievements to society by emphasizing their skills and ability. Ladies and gentlemen, having said that, the Fijian government, through the Ministry of Youth and Sports, is committed to develop and promote sports for all in a variety of ways. We also use sports to promote Fiji in the international tourism market. We have had the pleasure of hosting a number of world and regional events, including the World Surfing League. Fiji is Pro, which brings 300 people to Fiji for 3 weeks and employs over 200 Fijians to support the events. The Fiji International Golf event, which is now included into both the European and the Asian tours. The Crusade Chiefs Games, which brings to our shores a large number of their supporters. The ITTF World Cadet Challenge brings top youth players in Fiji. Next year, we are hosting the IWF World Junior Weightlifting Championships. And in 2021, we will host the INF World Under-20 Netball Cup. This, ladies and gentlemen, is in addition to the numerous Oceania events we host. They all bolstered our tourism. They all send out pictures through the various media in Fiji, an attractive place to visit. They are proof that picture is worth 1,000 words. However, in order to promote sports more effectively, we need to provide the evidence of its tangible impact. We all know about the intangible impact, but in order to attract more resources into the sector, we need to know the economic contribution we make to the economy. It is through initiatives such as the Pacific Research Symposium as this that we will address this impact and put a value to them. The Pacific Island Minister look forward to the outcome. I hope that the result, the case studies and analysis will assist us all to celebrate the value of that sports contribute to sustainable development and shape the future of the research agenda. Winaka Dhanebad, Shukran, and thank you very much.
Winaka Pakaliru, the Honourable Minister. And let me introduce our next speaker, with the privilege to introduce Mr. Dennis Miller, the Executive Director of the Oceania National Olympic Committee.
Good morning, everybody. As you can see, I'm not Dr. Mitchell. Robin had an unexpected family emergency, so he couldn't come today, but when he rang me up and told me, I said, I know what you're going to ask me to do. So here I am today. It's interesting to be back here. I was a student back here in 1974, so it's nice to see such a big campus and talking to Rich about the numbers. We've just been for a whole week in Apia at our UNOC General Assembly, Pacific Games Council meetings, and Sports Federation meetings, and we've covered so much ground in the last week, and this is going to be more interesting ground for sport in the region. So it's really, we're really happy to be here. And through Jackie's work, just like to recognize Jackie Loff in Sport Matters and her team. They've done a great amount of work and solid progress in raising the profile of sport as a regional priority in the region. ONOC is the regional secretariat for 17 National Olympic Committees. And we're all committed to elevating the profile of sport as a mechanism to support broader regional engagement and advocate for the use of sport, physical activity and physical education throughout the region. In order to better support the promotion of sport as an integral part of the regional sustainable development agenda, ONOC's committed to supporting research that will help to better articulate the value that sport for development can have on supporting both regional and national priorities in development. In partnership with the University of the South Pacific and the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, the governments of Fiji and the government of Samoa, we're pleased to celebrate the inaugural Shaping Up Pacific Research Symposium on Sport and Sustainable Development. ONOC looks forward to building on the momentum created by the symposium and sport policy activities throughout the region, including the work being carried out by UNESCO and Sport Matters to raise the voice for sport in the Pacific. We have a thriving sporting sector in the Oceania region, and through our strategic engagement with the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat and the USB, we look forward to strengthening the connection between sporting stakeholders, research and evidence. Through joint collaboration, together we'll move forward the policy dialogue and impact the perception and perceived value of sport throughout the region. So on behalf of ONOC and its members, it's my pleasure to welcome delegates and speakers for the inaugural Shaping Up Research Symposium on Sport and Development. I'm particularly honored and pleased to have our president here today, Maitre Konote. It's great to see you, sir. And our Minister, Tui Tumbo, wonderful to see you again, sir. And everyone, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I wish you all a successful few days of dialogue and look forward to supporting alongside my colleagues the outcomes of this symposium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. We do have a video to play. And before we play that, I'm going to ask that we take our seats. If not, you'll be in the spotlight when the video's playing. So, thank you. Do we need to remove these chairs? It's okay. This message is from the Executive Officer for Sport and Youth from UNESCO, Mr. Philippe Moulin-Worth.
Social inclusion is a worldwide policy agenda. The Agenda 2030 of the United Nations is focusing on no one left behind. So the United Nations, in particular UNESCO, of course, are striving to ensure that member states establish policies to help those who are the most disadvantaged in our societies. And sport policy has an obligation to contribute to that effort of governance at the national levels and at the international level. This meeting is about bringing together academia, researchers, scholars who research in these areas so we can inform policymaking by good evidence and by the latest scientific progress. Our role is to bring together the policymakers of governments, but also the sports federations and the scientists to establish, first of all, standards. What should we be doing? And then to advance, and this is the first step, how shall we achieve it? What are the measures to measure progress? How can we then build capacity amongst different stakeholders to conduct the right policies? Yeah, sure. Milan is the first follow-up meeting to the 6th World Conference of Sport Ministers that took place last year in Kazan. So very glad that the university is setting up this meeting. And it's not an accident because we know that MINEP 6 already has been informed and to a large scale conceived by the scientific community. So we're very happy that, again, the scientific community is spearheading the implementation of the Kazan Action Plan that has been adopted last year at this conference. And we do hope this is the first step towards implementation, which is what we're striving for.
Vinaka. Ladies and gentlemen, those were our speakers, and I'd like to thank you once again, DVC, Professor Cole, His Excellency the President, Honourable Minister, Mr. Miller. Thank you very much for your kind words. And we do have, over the next 2 days, something quite important to think about. The figure of 406 million is staggering. And if we can just take a fraction of that and put it back into education and sport, I can tell you what, we're on our road to a successful, fit and healthy nation. So today, let's bring it together. Let's all come together. Let's discuss, debate, and see how we can move forward together as a nation and really as a region. We're going to carry on with our program now, and I'm going to ask the team from USB. We're going to call up some panelists soon, but we need to redo our chairs. And then we're going into why research sport matters. And we're actually going to ask a group of athletes to come up and talk about why sport matters and what we need to do to research. The theme that they're going to focus on from a regional perspective is the contribution of sport to SDGs, the sport and public policy, leaving no one behind and measuring the impact of sport on society. And ladies and gentlemen, while we're setting up the stage, the 4 panelists that we're going to call on the stage is Mr. Seremai Mbai from Fiji, Ms. Mary Roden, Fiji, Ms. Lua Rikas from Papua New Guinea, and my co-host, multi-skill, multitasking, my co-host, Mr. Matt Bayer from Samoa. Thank you. After we have this session, I'm going to ask the panelists that we've got 10 minutes. We need to stick strictly to a 10-minute schedule. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic of Fiji is leaving. Vinaka. Vinaka, sir. Two minutes. I've been told if we've 2 minutes, maybe we can have a 2-minute break. And I apologize, I should have said in the beginning, the washrooms, if anyone needs to have a break, is out this door and around the corner, or out the back door and turn left and around the corner. They're just having a special photo. I've been told 2 minutes, and then we'll call the panelists on stage. You all right? live stream, the camera is really small. We need to make it thin, so people are watching around the world. So we need to push the button to zoom in. Can you look at that? Is that from here or there? This is actually what it looks like. Right. Has it been like that the whole time? Yeah.
Any
So that's what I think that's what he's saying. Is receiving complaints about the screen size. Receiving complaints about the screen. Can you fix it? Huh? Can we make it on this screen rather? Because obviously the screen is taking the screenshot of that.
what we are seeing.
But while there's no presentations, can you make that big? Yeah, yeah. There's nothing on the screen right now, so can you make that full screen? Hi, if our four panelists have any presentations that they'd like to load up onto the screen? Anybody? Anybody? Going once? Going twice? No? Okay.
Everything else is formal presentations. Yeah, and then everyone just starts.
All right, in the interest of time, I think we should start. All the panelists are back. The facilitator for this Talanoa session, I've been told that it's a Talanoa session, so it is informal and there are no presentations, is Lucy. So I'm going to ask Lucy, come and join me on stage, Lucy. Thank you. This is Mrs. Luciana Rokowa, and she will introduce the panelists that are going to come and have a chat and Talanoa about things that matter.
Thank you. It is indeed an honor to welcome the athlete panel onto the floor this wonderful morning. I will call upon Sarah Maimbai onto the platform, and also Lua Rikis from PNG, and Miss Mary Roden. Oh, I'm sorry, my apologies. Our champion from Samoa, Mr. Matthew Ba.
We are former athletes, not current athletes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here, to be sitting with some of our distinguished athletes from the region, Ms. Lua Rikis, as well as many other of our very proud athletes from the region that I wish to acknowledge this morning. This morning, we will kickstart our symposium with covering the themes of this symposium in sport and policy, leaving no one behind, as well as contribution of sports and to the SDGs, as well as measuring the impact of sport in society. Thank you. We'll start off our discussions this morning just with a Talanoa session starting with Sarah Maimbai. No pressure. This symposium will be, one of the themes is measuring the impact of sport on society and having a background in playing rugby overseas and having to come back home and give back to the society. What has sport, how has sport impacted you in contributing back to your family, society? And I know that you have your own academy running now, as well as you have a program called Be an Inspiration, BI. Be an Inspiration, which is your name as well. Can you elaborate more on that, on how sport has impacted you and your family and your society, which you are doing quite a lot of work with?
Well, good morning to you all in Bulavinaka. I always say that wherever I go and talk to people in schools, is, I go with a saying or quote goes like this: "You can praise my glory, but you got to know my story." I think, here in Fiji, because rugby is so big and you can be famous, but you have no idea what I went through that made me that far, or the person I am today. My life story was, I was born as a single parent. I just know my father when I was 15. I dropped out of school when I was only 15. I living in a village. When you understand living in the village in Fiji, when you don't have any education background, and you don't have any father figure to encourage you, you kind of lose hope, and you're very crippled with your mindset, and it seems like you're lost. There's no purpose in life. And especially when you grow up in the village and people tease you when you fail your exams, like people, they tease you that you're not good enough and you're not smart enough, you're stupid. And then parents and aunties, you said, you're useless, waste of money and waste of food. But when you're young, you tend to believe that. You believe in those negativity, then you become me and you become the person I am. And then comes sports. I didn't have the talent like some of the great Fijian rugby players. I'm talking no disrespect to any other sports, but because I'm speaking from my experience as a rugby player, is I played professionally for 16 years at the highest level. Just a village boy. Just a village boy. Nothing special. But rugby make the person I am today. And talking about impact, we don't even cover, when I was looking at the title that I was going to talk about is impact. But we don't actually realize there's a positive impact and there's a negative impact. Now I'm talking about the positive impact in my life. And I got 5 children. And when you're coming from the village, I got married when I was 21. And imagine that, when you don't have anything and you want to get married and you think you're in love. And 21, you have no idea. How can I give something I don't have? How can I give something I don't have? And my wife, luckily she's not here. She said it's tough to relate with me. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be also. And that's what I value, about. Getting into that, I get married at 21, then I have a family, I got a son, and then I'm stuck. And then this is one thing that I realize, an important role to become a man. That's another different story. And to become a husband, that's another different story. And then to become, a father, that's another different story. How can I give values in life to my own children? I didn't have that growing up. But sports, like rugby, like I grew up where there's no father figure. I didn't feel sorry for myself. So don't feel sorry for myself. When I'm growing up, I don't have any father figure who tell me, this is how you eat. This is the time you have to sleep. This is the right time to have relationship. This is how you save your money. None did. So I gotta find it myself. So when, through those relationships and throughout my journey, and through sports, I use sports, I realize that I don't have values in my life. No disrespect to my mother, because she works as a house girl, $50 a week. So through those pain, I use that for my fuel. So I don't want my own family to go through the same thing. And using sports, I use values of rugby, which is integrity, enjoyment, teamwork. I use that to apply it into my own life, my sport, my training, my finances, my relationship. And then it becomes days I keep doing that. So you imagine I was just a village boy. And then time goes by, 16 years later I become a professional sportsman. So days becomes weeks, and weeks becomes months, and months becomes years, and 16 years later, it's me, it's become my habit, it become who I am, and become my character. And this is why I'm here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sir Mbai. And that's why we all love sports, and we will hope to improve our systems and process so that we have a brighter future for our children and their children. And thank you, Bai, for sharing that very honest statement. And it's not all roses. Sport, especially in the region, it's a struggle. To be honest, it's a struggle. But we love what we do, and that's why we are here. And collectively, we hope this symposium will bring out some very good initiatives and more recommendations and more push so that we can have a brighter future for our sport industry and for our government and its development. Thank you. Mary, former Sportswoman of the Year, mother of 5, 6.
I'm sorry, by one.
By 6. One, no. Thank you. And welcome, and we thank you for availing your time this morning as a champion for our athlete panel. It is indeed an honor to have you as well as my 2 colleagues here and Bai. Just talking on, there's been a lot of statement on leaving no one behind. Can you elaborate what you think of that statement, leaving no one behind?
Thank you, Lucy.
Naka.
Nisambula Vinaka. Thank God. Leaving no one behind. Yes, that is the agenda, SDG Agenda 2030. Leaving no one behind means a lot, speaks a lot. I say that being a person with disability. I wouldn't say that we are being left behind here in Fiji because the government has recognized persons with disabilities here in Fiji. To prove that is the endorsement of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities back in, on the 2nd of June 2010, and the Bill of Rights. Also the inaction of the bill being enacted as an act, just most recent. I would just bring up a fact of participation regarding persons with disabilities. Currently, according to the Fiji Paralympic Committee, what they have in their records is only 15 active athletes. And if you have to count the number of persons with disabilities, just up at the complex, it's more than that 15. And in the whole community, the whole of Fiji, that comes to 1,000, 2,000 plus persons with disabilities. And I'm just looking back at the Oceania table tennis tournament that we had last year, April, that was hosted by Fiji. There were 17 participants from Fiji, and that was the biggest number of persons with disabilities participating in an event. And that was one happy moment for me, looking at the big number of persons with disabilities representing Fiji in this tournament. But then, now, if looking at the 15 that's only there, it's more like table tennis is making up the 15, but it's not. The 15 is from athletics, and hopefully I'm one of the 15 that's in that record. But then, yeah, the number has come down. I was hoping that it might have grown or something bigger. Also, leaving no one behind, as I've just said earlier, that we are not being left behind here. There's work being done. We are being included in most of the consultations that are being held. Climate change, health, whatever that's coming up within the society, we are being part of it. But I guess we need to look at the barriers or the causes of this that's sort of stopping people being part of what's happening. As we know that changes don't happen overnight. I'm thankful that there are changes slowly coming up. You know, there are ramps being built along the walkways and lifts being made in buildings that don't have lifts, and yeah, into the infrastructure. But then there still needs to be a little bit more to be done. Maybe speedy, a little bit more fast. Well, then we need a lot of money to be able to do that. And yes, there are people who are saying that they would want to be part of what's happening, persons with disabilities in particular. But then it's always to do with transport, that they are not able to come in and be part of what's happening. And I think that would be one thing that we need to look at. How do we get people, persons with disabilities, transport? When we were in Vanuatu at the mini games, I spoke to one of the athlete reps. She was an able-bodied who had said that they were very fortunate that they have had that hall built in, I don't remember the name, it's quite where we had the event. And also transport, that they had received government support in regards to transportation of athletes. So they were able to pick those athletes from their homes, from the rural areas that far distant that they lived, to bring them into the city, to the main area. As for us, that is a bit of that would be a gray area for those of us here in Fiji. And yeah, because persons with disabilities, most of us are not employed, are unemployed, and even employed, they don't receive much of a wage in a week. That would be something that needs to be looked into, to be able to get people with disabilities to participate. I think with the other island countries too, that most of them have ratified the CRPD. And I think that would be some similar issues that they'd be facing, because I had mingling with my other athletes from other island countries, those who have mentioned that they do not have venues. Okay, it's so much similar to us. Para table tennis, we don't have a proper venue. That's affecting our training. For me and my colleague who have qualified for the World Championships, we are supposed to be training. And being honest here, we haven't started with our training. It hasn't been much training because there is no proper venue. There's always something coming up and cutting off the time schedule for us to be using the hall that we've been using at the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. So I think that there would be some areas that we need to look into and maybe find ways of supporting, because we were looking at developing sports, sustaining it. What's keeping us back. Persons with disabilities want to be part of what's happening. And yeah, if government is in support, maybe they're just those gaps that we need to look into and patch up. Inaka.
Thank you, Mere. Thank you very much for your positive remarks, as well as the challenges that you currently face. Thank you. Next to me on my left is none other than our netball champion from PNG. And it is an honor to have you here on board. And Lua is an advocate also for water aid in PNG. And I've also played against her, and Fiji has won, just like Fiji has won against New Zealand. Lua, you'll be on the contribution of sport and to the Sustainable Development Goals. And you're really advocating well in that area. Can you tell us how you, being a former athlete, having just retired last year, former captain of the Pepes, how has that helped you as an athlete to do the advocacy work and carry out the programs on the ground for you?
Thank you, Lucy. Not as successful as Bai, so I've played for Papua New Guinea in netball, but at an elite level, but not as like professional as him. So for myself, I think for me personally, sport was my space to be myself. I think as big people, you're looked upon as you're supposed to know everything, or you're supposed to be the smartest person. But I think me growing up, my size didn't help me. I was looked upon as, oh, you're one of the odd ones. Something's wrong with you, strange. But I think with sports, they embraced me. So netball is my sport, and netball was like, you're the best. We want people like you to be in our sport. So I think after getting into netball and having that career in netball, I felt it was time that I think I wanted to do more for my country, and not just represent Papua New Guinea in the sport that I love. So at the Pacific Games, it was in Papua New Guinea, like you all know, we had crowds, so the stadiums were packed. And after every game, as a captain, you're expected to say something. So every time I'd go up, I'd be like, what am I going to say? So all I said was, thank you. Thank you for coming and supporting our team. And then I walked away and I was feeling, I don't think that's enough. And then kids came up and they want to take a picture with me. And so, like Lucy said, I only retired last year, but just, leading up to that, I thought, I think there's more that I could give back to these girls that come up, and there's more I could say to them, something that could change their life, besides come and play netball, something that could improve their lives in some way. So I'm with WaterAid Papua New Guinea as the Sports for Development Program Coordinator. And after I got into WaterAid, so the work that we do is all about water, sanitation, hygiene. I'm also the Team PNG STD champion on goal number 6, which is clean water and sanitation. So after I got into my work with WaterAid, the figures that we found out, or after the MDGs, we found that Papua New Guinea, the biggest nation in the Pacific, we were ranked number 1. I mean, at the games, we won the Pacific Games, but for that goal of sanitation and water, access to water, we were ranked number 1, but with, as a country that didn't achieve access. So our country failed in that area, I thought, in not achieving total access to water and sanitation. So I think after hearing about this and getting involved in the work that WaterAid does, I thought it's a good way I could go out and talk to girls and people about the importance of access to water and sanitation. I think we had them in institutions like schools and health centers, but when you come to sports facilities, nothing. So you have sports spaces around our country that bring people in to play, but then they don't have a place to go and wash their hands or use the toilet. So you find that they're going to the bush and using the bush as their toilet. And the impact that has on the health of children that attend those tournaments, also on women. So you find that, so I'll be doing my presentation on tomorrow about the impacts of having or not having access to toilets and hand washing facilities at sports venues. So I think with my has been viewed as one of the role models in sports in the country. I felt that this is a great opportunity to go and talk to people about goal number 6, and also that it's important and that it's our right as women, because we're the ones that it's a burden upon us to make sure that our families have water at home. So I thought it was a good way for me to go out and talk about this, the importance of water and sanitation, and that it's their right, that they need to be speaking out, not just accepting that, well, we just don't have water here, so that's fine. We just have to walk another half an hour, wait, fetch the water. And usually it's the young girls that miss out on school because they have to do that to help their moms and their aunties or grandmothers in the villages and in the community. So I'm happy to be here, to be part of this symposium. And yeah, I think sports it has a potential. It's got, everything. I've benefited from sports, being able to travel and meet new people, but I think we also have the power to go and influence leaders in our country that they need to take notice, and everyone needs to be working together to achieve the SDGs by 2030, hopefully. And make the region a better place for our future generation. Yeah.
Thank you, Lua. Thank you very much. Just like to add on to Lua's statement, it's happening in the region. Yes, after your national representation, you get somehow left behind or you don't contribute back. There's always positiveness in being an athlete. You can always give back at some place or other. And if we're passionate enough, we will keep driving those SDGs as the new themes going forward. And thank you for being a role model for that. On to our Manu Samoa, champion, World Cup 1991. Matthew, thank you for allowing yourself to be here as part of the panel, and also co-MC with Vanessa. You've done a lot of work in the region, and you're currently the CEO for Sasanok. How has in your experience from being an athlete to now doing administrative work and advocacy at government level, how do you feel sport is used to build resilience in the society as you're building up towards that path as well, and all the challenges that you face from an athlete perspective, and now an advocacy champion and also administrator? So can you share some light with that, in that?
Thank you, and Nisambula Vinaka Tanofa. But firstly, I'd like to once again salute my colleagues here, Mere, Mai, and Lua. It's, listening to you three speak, it reminds me when I was first playing rugby, when I was 10, somebody giving me aspiration to go to the next level and see the bigger picture. So thank you for that. But in terms of the relevancy this morning, I guess I'm trying to relate my journey to the advocacy work that's been done in the region, especially over the last 2 years in engagement with our leaders, our prime ministers, the Forum of Economic Ministers, platforms like the civil society organizations, the private sector, and agencies, regional agencies who have a critical role in making decisions that impact sport in our region. And if I was to think back, 1985, I was just grasping how to speak proper English in New Zealand after coming from Samoa. I was given an opportunity in Italy, and it was a toss-up of carrying on with studying law in Wellington or going and explore. So I thought, wonderful, got on the plane, went to Italy and played rugby there. And I went with a chap named David Campisi. I'm not sure whether some of you remember David Campisi. And I got there and I suddenly found out nobody speaks English. So Italian then became the first priority for me over the years. And if I cast my mind back, 10 years later, I was again invited to have a coaching role in Italy, and then became part of the national coaching staff with the former Fijian coach, Brad Johnstone, 1998 to 2001. And one of the strategies we looked at was bringing Pacific Island players into domestic competition, which we did. And then the regulations within the European nations changed, which meant that through residency, Fijian, Samoan, Tongan, Pacific Island players could now be part of the Six Nations. And in that process, we had a Fijian, Apenisa Tutabondo, the first Fijian to play for Italy in the RBS Six Nations. I managed to bring him across with several other Pacific Island players. And my point here is the role of sports in inflicting change in mindset, change in attitude by the wider global sporting community. Because the question was asked of me as a coach, why do you need to bring Fijians and Samoans and Maori to Italy when we have an abundance of rugby players? My answer and that of Brad was simple. We need dynamic players, line breakers, who will make a difference in Six Nations debut by Italy. And 10 years later, I come back to Samoa. I was fortunate to run the high performance for 10 years. And so transitioning from an early childhood to a player and to a coach, and coming back to contribute to your own country and later in the region, what I've found through the advocacy work is we need a certain level of confidence. Confidence to deal with our leaders, to deal with those who are in strategic positions, to bring sport into a more influential role in society. And I believe in the next 2 days we are talking about that, about the role, the wider contribution of sport to the aspirations. We talk about the Olympics Agenda 2020, we talk about the Agenda 230, and some of the development goals that have been mentioned this morning. I guess in terms of the question this morning, what I've learned over the last 2 years, a lot of people talk about sport. Wonderful, wonderful. The Super Rugby, the FIFA, the soccer currently in Russia, the Pacific Games, the mini games. But what does that mean in terms of sport being on the sectoral platform, to be on the real menu? Let's talk about recognition, but real recognition. What does that mean? And to me, if we can imagine being a sector of sports dedicated to sports in the region, that you have your own dedicated budget, you have your own dedicated offices, you have your dedicated resources and staff, it means, as the research has been brought out, rather than having 0.3% of national budget, you may be able to have 5, maybe 6% of national budget that you can really then impact the inclusion of all peoples in sport and enthuse them and motivate them to achieve in whatever sphere they work in. I think for me that is the critical point where this research and where this symposium is heading. We influence, but then we have to be very succinct, very clear, and very confident on how we articulate our messages, and bringing the critical evidence, as our professors have shared in the last day, helps inform. So I guess for me it's having the voice of sport in the region and globally, making sure we are clear on what we need to change to our leaders and the relevancy that it links to your national strategy, the regional strategy, and also global change through sport. And I thank you again for this opportunity today.
Thank you, Matt. And wrapping up our session this morning. Thank you, Matt, for your comments. And yes, indeed, we need to develop a strong data framework so that we can put sport on the table. Without data, it's a losing battle. So as our research will show, that there are many challenges to providing evidence-based to our government ministers so that they will say, yes, sport. We can see it on the ground, we just need to collect it. And together, we can. Thank you very much, panel members, and thank you, audience, for your attention this morning. It is indeed an honor to have represented our respective countries and to be here and sit back and contribute back with all of you who all have sport at heart. And thank you. We'll give it on to our next session now. Vinaka.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Something Matthew said, he talked about a dream and an aspiration, and I just wanted to say, you know, a dream remains a dream until you decide to wake up and make it happen, make it real. So I hope today we'll wake up and together we can make a difference. In the interest of time, this this session did wonders in catching up with time. And we are going to break for morning tea shortly, and that'll take us through 11 o'clock. But before that, I'd like to call up this wonderful Miss Jackie, who'd like to address you.
Thank you, Captain MCs. I just wanted to put a couple of links